two as one.
Good morning. This is Ladena Bough from Stockton, Missouri. And my guest today is Jared Dietz. We've had him here a few times over the year. And, Jared was in here last time and was talking about the fact that somebody had blessed him with $12,000 so that he and another friend of his could start a computer repair business. And then he made the mistake of saying, God, when's my time coming? And so, what God lay on your plate at that point?
That's one thing you never want to do is you never just want to ask the Lord for, what you actually want, because then he actually delivers it. So that's a joke. So first off, I was talking to my friend, and I made the mistake, as you so graciously pointed out, as complaining about how, Lord, when is it my time? I mean, you basically kept me on the shelf here for a couple of years. Nothing's happening, and I'm just like, I'm bored of this. And sure enough, that was the mistake. And
not really a mistake, just a new path in life.
Accidental mistake to the new purpose in life. And so I went to bed, and I woke up, and the very next morning I missed a call, and I'm going through my call log. I'm like, who would call me? And I was kind of scratching my head, like, I wonder who it could be, because my wife's at home. And sure enough, it was James River South. And I'm like, well, that's the old campus I used to serve at. I wonder what they want. I don't serve there no more. And so, I go to the voicemail, listen to the voicemail, and it was the Pastor Greg with James River Church, who happens to oversee the life groups. And he's like, well, I know you showed interest in the past, and I just want to reach out, see if you want to, we're interested in doing a life group. They're starting up, and I'm like, oh, I see how this is. All right, I'm reading you, Lord. I'm seeing how you're flowing with this. I immediately go, oh, there was I asked for it and I got it. And so I was like, all right. So I call him back, and I actually have a scheduled meeting with Pastor Greg today. So believing that the Lord is giving me what I call my double portion, because of course I opened my mouth and sure enough got what I asked for. And while doing that, at the same day, I get a call from the other campus, the one I'm currently at, James River North, and they didn't have me scheduled because when I transferred over, the weekend or the end of the year was already scheduled through, and so they're like, well, we could start you, sometime in the beginning of the next year, next year, January or something, whenever the schedule starts opening up. I'm like, all right, that's fine, sure enough. And then it was like, I think it's like 15th or 16th. And I'm like, as I was saying, I complaining. And then the very next morning, and so they call me and they're like, well, we want you to come serve. Sunday looks to be like a rough day. Like you're probably not going to be able to do that one, which I can't do that one. But they're like, well, we got Wednesday, you could, serve with the youth and everything. And I just go, well, that'd be a blessing if I could, if I serve Wednesday. And the whole thing running through my head is I've always been a double portion, because it goes back to when I first asked for a double portion from the Lord. He gave it to me. So this is like my double portion. Serving two different churches, doing two different things, that's a double portion. And I go, okay, well, this has to be from the Lord. And before I even finish asking, I'm one of those. I immediately go right to the Lord. I go, and I didn't even get to finish the question. He already answered it. And I was completely blessed by it, because it takes I guess you could say it takes trust that somebody can come up and run a life group, and so I'm completely blessed by these opportunities that are now put in front of me. So,
What kind of life group is it? Are you dealing with any particular subject, or?
oh, of course. I only, if there's anything I know anything about, is prayer.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, I'm still probably definitely a baby in the realm of prayer, but um, I have a whole entire bookshelf dedicated to prayer. I probably have a last count somewhere around 300 books on prayer. Of course, I haven't read them all, but I've done if there's anything I ever want to speak on, it would be prayer, just because I feel like that's an area I'm comfortable like working in.
Mm-hmm.
Um, with my, you know, I hate to use the word handicap, but my situations in life have led me to a place where um, leading a life group and doing these things takes a lot amount of faith, because I mean there's so much active I guess you could say rules in ministry. As you know, there's
Mm-hmm.
things you can't violate, and you have to know what those things are. And there's always these standards and stipulations, and things just get shoved onto these pastors, ministers, life group leaders, everybody, and you feel that pressure of. And I just don't want to be that person who fails out because of that. I mean. Uh, so I go into it knowing that it's a delicate piece. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to hold myself to the belief system that where I am now in life has been restored, and that I have to hold on to that, because the moment I try, the devil can try to steal that back again. As we've already previously discussed, it's already been stolen several times by the devil. So I have to be very I guess you could say thoughtful and how I approach this, because it's a whole different ball game for me. It's not anything I'm used to.
Yeah, leading a life group is, that's the first step towards that ministerial degree that you're going for, and hopefully your master's and everything. Because you'd been sick for a couple of months,
I
and
was sick for about 2 months straight. Had a COVID something else mixture, and it just wouldn't go away.
yep, and that kind of puts everybody behind the eight ball at that point,
Oh
and
yeah,
you prayed your way through that one, I am
yeah,
sure.
yeah,
I know that I prayed for you while you were sick, and
yeah. I had lots of prayer going around. I mean, it's intense. I mean, I'm still trying to come out of it, like financially and everything else. It's a struggle. Everybody's struggling, of course, right now. But
yeah, it's insane out there, with all the prices going up, and you've got your wife's income at the moment and everything, but you've taken up cookies. Uh,
yeah, so the funny thing about that is, my last name's Deeds, of course. So my one of my friends I met in the recovery home. If you remember my story on that, where I started in ministry through a recovery program, being rehabilitated for my ex drug problem, and the problem with I had met David Manning, and he was in the program with me, and me and about, I think it was 16 guys at the time, something like that. It was a huge number. Anyway, I'm still connected to him. He sent me a little, handmade thing he had done. It said Deeds Dough, because it's my last name, Deeds. So he sent it Deeds Dough, and I'm like, I'm going to use that. He's like, go ahead. And so now I put on my Facebook, I put Deeds Dough, and then, just call me in it. I'll just work out whatever price. Um, so I opened that up, but as you already alluded to, things are very expensive. Like, I mean, it's ridiculous. My eggs are, I mean, even though I get them at Sam's Club, you're still talking like almost $20 a flat for,
hmm
I
Right.
think it's like 60 or 90 eggs, something like that. And so then, by the time you add all these costs in, and the fact that it takes me, to sterilize and do the, baking process to cookie dough process with even with the KitchenAid mixer. I mean, like I did your guys' batches, just 4 batches was all day process.
Right.
I mean, I didn't, one thing to the next, my whole day didn't stop till like after I picked up the wife at 7 p.m. I mean, so it wasn't until like 8 p.m. I got home and I was able to do everything. But it's hard because, I understand everybody's, dealing with financial things. So it's a thing because nobody wants to buy it at 20, but at 16, I'm still losing money.
Right.
So, I mean, and there's
if they really want home baked goods or something, or home baked cookie doughs, they'll pay the price.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought at first. And I mean, I thought 20 was very reasonable because really, when you see the problem I realized is when you're making the cookie dough with a KitchenAid mixer, the recipe is set for a certain level of outcome of, baked good cookie dough. You can't really adjust that.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't change that because everything changes then. You have to change every ingredient. You can't do that. So the only way I make them is I make them by batch. And really, if we look at the batch, I'm giving you like a batch and a half for only charging you basically for 1 batch. So I'm losing between $6 and $10, and I don't actually make anything for all the time I put into it. So
we're just going to have to work on your business plan.
I know. So, I mean,
you see, you have to have neighbors like mine that all have chicken houses and everything, so I can go get a dozen eggs for $2.
That's what I need. I need that kind of connection to drop the egg price. Eggs are what's killing me.
Yeah, eggs are, they're so expensive these days, and I don't understand why. Other than the fact that they did have a lot of chickens die because they had a horrible flu thing for chickens here.
Well, didn't you see the Facebook, the chicken beak mask? I mean, come on, we know how to solve this. Put a mask on the chicken. Put a mask on the chicken. Come on.
Well, they used to have glasses for them. You used to be able to buy little glasses for your chickens so that, because they were red. And if you put the sunglasses on your chicken, well, then they would not peck at each other, because chickens have a bad habit of pecking on each other, and then you got a bloody chicken running around, and
yeah,
it's just,
yeah, absolutely.
So if they make sunglasses, they ought to make a mask for chicken.
Chicken mask, come on! I saw it on Facebook. It should be a thing by now. We should have chickens around with little face beak masks and everything. It's great. Come on.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things that it's just an example, because today you can't really make it on your own in a lot of respects. You've got to find some way to make some extra cash.
Yeah.
Especially if you've got a family. I pick up little odd jobs doing things for bookkeeping for small businesses and things like that. And so, we all have to find some way to get by. And at least you and Candy are getting by right now. It's a struggle, but
it's a struggle, but well, I mean, we know I opened the computer business and I got some things started, but 12 grand on a computer business doesn't go far.
Right.
When you really break it down.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the projected opening cost was $200K.
Right.
And I mean, that's not even putting in any merchandise. That's just to get the brick and mortar store and get the, we don't even, so I mean, everything that I'm trying to do is just trying to just build something. But the cookie dough thing, I thought, of course, everything I do comes from the Lord. And that's probably something I want to take a moment to point out is when you're led of the Lord, you're going to struggle, but the struggle is not going to defeat you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
he tells you, count it all as joy.
Yeah. So it's all counted as joy. And I mean, just like you, I'm certainly struggling. I'm struggling. You're struggling. We're all struggling, but I'm making it.
Right.
So,
and you really got to set yourself up to where you are not dependent on this world.
Yeah.
Christ is going to return. We're looking at harder times for the next, 24, 36 months or whatever. And you've got to figure out a way that you can keep your head above water and keep your family going, and just find what you can do, and do not be dependent on the government and so forth. Today they could shut down everything in the government. I don't know that they ever passed something to raise our spending limit, which I think is absolutely ridiculous, but that's a different subject.
Yeah, a whole different subject. Never mind that it's something like $26 trillion, and they just keep throwing money everywhere like it's a game.
Yeah, and it's not backed by anything. It's just paper. Okay.
Yeah, it's just paper.
They took the gold standard out, so we're just at paper.
Yeah.
But you have come from this past of drug dealer and drug addict and sexual issues and so forth in the past, and you have come to the point with God to where you're going to Evangel University, you're trying to get your pastoral training in. And
in fact, I graduated as soon as I finished this last class. I failed math because a couple issues there, but I failed by I don't know, less than 5%. And so I had to reschedule up for math. And
well, your brain damaged probably has an issue with that too, right? Trying to get through the math portion.
Yeah, because the brain, all the math was wiped out. I had to relearn everything, like what 2 + 2 was, 4 + 4, whatever. I had to reteach everything. And when you're starting out basically at ground zero, I mean, the most of the math I ever did was balance a checkbook and whatever little tiny bit of math I needed to know to make it in life. I had to reteach myself just those basics. I had lived on that principle of just the lowest level, because of course I'm still trying to rebuild the memory, or trying to fix all the damage too. So then you go to math statistics from ground zero. That's like,
yeah,
and only 16 weeks to do it. And then I missed the fact there was actually a little calculator. I missed the little tiny thing that said click to download. Who knew you had to scroll up to click to download? Because you usually go down, scroll down, not up. So I missed the calculator for the first 5 weeks, and the professor wouldn't let me redo the coursework. So I got the horrible grades. I pretty much failed the first 5 weeks, and then add on COVID and whatever that RSV thing going around. I spent 2 months almost straight dealing with that, and so and the fact I'm struggling as it is with math, you combine that all into failure.
Well, it's just a struggle, but God's getting you through it. You have to redo it, but
yeah, given the fact that I was only less than 5% short, that's a miracle in itself. And then now I'm in the course, and I just started the first week again, and so I got like 16 weeks, and I'll be graduated. When I restarted this first week, I immediately could tell there was a whole different dynamic with my math. I only missed like 3 or 4 questions out of the first 2 weeks, instead of it just being a complete, horrible thing. I saw that my math has improved. So then I was like, it's sticking. I realized that what the devil took is coming back. So God's restored it, but I have to still live on that faith principle that it's there now. So I'm starting to be able to put some more faith to it, because I'm seeing results where I'm like, wow, that's great. I mean, all of what I thought I would lose is there.
It's all there. You just have to figure out where it's hiding in there. I know you had so much brain damage there and had to relearn a lot of stuff. And
I had to relearn math from ground zero.
So the Lord is healing your head, whether it may be a slow process a lot of times, but it is happening.
Yeah.
So we all just need to figure out how to take what the Lord has given us in the past and expand on that, and trust that He is going to take us where we need to be.
Yeah.
And He's opening up doors for you, and
yes,
you can find that math and redo those deeds dough. You can figure out how to up recipe and stuff.
Well, you know, it's all on Facebook under my name, and you can always just, you know, add me as a friend, and then, you know, send requests in for cookie dough, whatever. Um, the thing is though, with cookie dough, it's also a labor of love, because again, by the time you figure everything out, I'm losing money.
Right.
But at the same time, in a sense, I'm also gaining, because the way that I'm able to purchase, I'm not actually spending my money now. So it's it's such a complex operation, but it's finally working itself out. So
Yep. Well, I'm sure you'll get there, and you know, the computer business will probably take off one of these days. You know, you may have to start in a garage instead of a brick and mortar building. You know,
yeah,
but
I don't know how I'm still waiting for the Lord to work on that. I don't know how it's going to go. But, I mean,
you know, I'm, you know, the Lord is getting you through, and you didn't have to resort to past methods of operation in order to get through.
well, we can't do that anyway, because unfortunately, everybody that was connected to that business that would be an option died with COVID. So the unfortunate problem is you can't go. We already tried. We can't shoot backwards to go back to, because my business partner made it worth $65 million the first time around.
Right.
He stopped at 65 million. It was his worth, but then he lost everything because he went blind. The problem is all his contacts literally died from COVID. Everybody that could restore his business is dead.
Yeah.
And so now we have to go we have to start this thing from ground zero and do everything in anew. And now we have to go figure out the niche, because we don't know what the niche is. The niche that was there is no longer there, because nowadays you can buy a dang cheap computer for $300 from Walmart that isn't worth nothing, but the consumer world don't know that.
Right.
And so they'll go buy that $300 computer, and it'll be broke next month, and they'll be wondering why it's broke. Or
right.
Broke 6 months down the road. You have to invest. It's all about quality.
Right.
And nobody wants to pay $3-4 grand for a computer. What they should do, they don't want to.
Yeah, well, a lot of them can't afford to do it if they're like me. But
yeah, if you're stuck where we are, you can't afford to do it. But I mean,
I'm sure it'll all work out sooner or later. You know,
it's a faith principle.
Yeah, you know, but the one thing you need to focus on is the fact that the Lord, well, the devil has not knocked you back down to where you were.
Well, he's certainly taken his swipes at me, but he's never been able to knock me back down where I was.
You know, that's one of the things that you need to remember. If you're a Christian, you're going to have bad times. You know, nobody ever said being a Christian would be easy.
No, but the Lord did say he'd be there with you, so it does become easier when you walk it out with God.
Right. You know,
I can tell you that. The difference between God and not God is simple. I mean, when you
know, look at the way the disciples all died. I mean, you know, and they went to jail, and they did this, and they were crucified and everything else. You know, life as a Christian is not easier, but it is so much better and so much fuller with everybody you come in contact with whenever you develop that walk.
Yeah.
And, you know, so that's really, you impressed me because of the fact of where you came from and what you were doing.
Yeah.
You and your wife.
Yeah.
And, you know, the fact that you pulled yourself out of that. A lot, I guess it started basically for your child.
Yeah, well, it all started because of my daughter.
Yeah, and so, you know, you named her Angel for a reason.
Yeah, her first real name is Angelica. I got it out of the Bible. I do not remember who it was, but somebody in the Bible was named Angelica something, and it stuck. I was like, that's the name. I really felt the Lord pulled me to that name, and that's what we went with.
Yep. Well, you know, so the Lord has brought you, you know, miles and miles and miles from where you were, and he's trying to open doors for you. And I think, you know, it's moving a little bit.
It is moving. I would like it to move more, but I'm going to just wait on God to move those doors. Yeah,
nobody ever said it would be fast either, you know.
Yeah.
You know, I've been waiting for months to get the windows for my church right now. But I was blessed last night because a guy called me out of the blue and he said,
Testify.
tell me what they're
Serious.
going to cost to get them made. And, he was going to give us a donation for that. And
Shoot, I would have
then,
done it myself if I had it, but
and
I
then,
don't have it.
Jody doesn't know that she'll be hijacked to install them because
You're up, Jody. Just saying.
Jody is a wonderful person who came out and helped us when somebody broke into our church and threw all the chairs through the windows and made a major mess of our building. And
That's just ridiculous.
she's back over here behind the by the camera.
Where you can't see her, but she's back there.
She's wonderful. She was on my show a few weeks ago. And so she came out, and the woman is a whiz with a saw and a screwdriver and everything else in the world. I mean, she came complete with tools.
Hey, she's got skill sets I can't even touch, because I'd be like, if I even touched that thing, it'd probably go right through my leg. Let's just be honest. Right?
Yeah, we let Mark pick up glass out of the yard.
Yeah.
But, the Lord is blessing those who are faithful to him right now, because time is short. And if you do not pay attention to what's happening and you do not take those steps to draw closer to him, I'm sorry, your life is going to be really, really difficult.
And I figured something out to that too. So, almost every person lives by a set of standards, but here's what I realized is when you compare yourself to your standard and what God would call you to, here's where I noticed we all ignore those little foxes, those little tiny things. We just ignore those. People speeding on the freeway, not signaling, all those little mistakes you make, not stopping at stop signs. Those things will curse your life. That you can just read Deuteronomy, and you can figure out Deuteronomy 28. You can figure out where your life says you're either blessed or you're cursed by the choices you make. That's why God said you choose to be blessed or you choose to be cursed.
Right.
And
Deuteronomy 28 right now is an exact outline of what's happening in our world and where we're going.
And so I read Deuteronomy 28 and I started going, okay, well, I can't do that no more. And I kid you not, I started seeing God immediately start working in my life when I started closing up these little tiny things, and I close those up. I stopped the enemy from working in those territories. And then I started seeing things. I mean, I don't know who it was. I just had the other day, somebody leave $100 bill on my windshield in my car, in an envelope. I don't know who did that, but very few people know my home address. So that tells you when you start closing these things up, God will provide.
Right.
And so I don't ever go above the speed limit. It says 60. I usually stay under 60.
He's so much better at that than I am.
It's discipline to see that you're sinning when you speed, because you're breaking the law of the people. When you break the law of the people, God says you're not honoring what I told you to do. So then it comes down to your sinning.
I went to a study once, and it was really interesting because they were showing, people say that you can't find United States in the Bible and so forth. But, you need to figure out that God set things in a certain manner, because we have Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And when we get into a family, we've got the father and the mother and the children. We got these threes everywhere in life. Billy Burris, one of the pastors with Acts Ministry, did a whole thing on threes for Acts Fest. And, I dislike our government right now just because they're violating our Constitution, but
and our right to be a Christian, and even being a man of God, they try to take everything away from us. And
they'd like to shut the doors to all the churches.
And as a group, we have to stand up as believers and speak for what the truth is and get it back in the school. No more of this, transgender stuff and you're whatever you want to be. That stuff ain't biblical.
No, it's not biblical, and it's insanity. I have trouble with things, news articles and stuff where they're saying, so
Yeah.
we're going to do this for every individual who has a menstrual cycle. And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, let's get this straight. Men do not have menstrual
They're
cycles.
never going to. I don't care what you're reading wrong if you believe that.
Yeah, so it's, and other articles, and it's like, okay, this transgender stuff and what they're pushing in the schools and so
Oh,
forth
now they're
right
trying
now.
to teach it to children. I don't want my child to know about that stuff. How dare you try to even tell my child what she needs to know?
Yeah,
I
and
slap somebody silly.
Second grade children do not need sex education with full
No.
frontal nudity
No.
and things
They're
of that
trying to
nature.
push that stuff into the school. You don't need a 4-year-old to know what sex is.
Mm-hmm.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, and just because some 4-year-old says, a little girl says, "Oh, today I'm a boy," and she goes and plays with trucks, does not mean take her and get her drugs and turn her into a boy. I mean, you can't take her into a boy. You know, we're getting off on some really deep subjects here, aren't we?
We are. We ran off the rabbit trail. So ultimately, what I see is that so we live by our mistakes cost us something,
Mm-hmm.
and it costs the whole world. If you don't think it don't cost us nothing, look at what we're dealing with in the world.
Yeah, well, we've got to get
paying for it.
Yeah, the Christians have got to stand up. They've got to get together.
They got so silent. The church is just like, well, I ain't going to say nothing. I don't want to offend them or do anything. You have to stand up.
I've run into people that, refuse to participate in some particular thing because they were afraid somebody at their church would hear it or see it and judge them.
Well,
you need righteous judgment in the world,
well,
not this man-made judgment where everything is either good or everything is either bad.
Well, when man judges it, it falls apart because man can never judge something.
Mm-hmm.
Once you do, you've set a standard you can never maintain.
Yeah, you've got to keep righteous judgment in all of your actions. And, I complain about the government. I'm sorry, I'm just that way. But even that was set up by our Lord because, you see, we've got 3 separate entities in our governmentals in Washington, D.C. And, even that's a 3 that that the Lord put in place to help us have a Christian nation. We were established as a Christian nation. And people are not understanding that and seeing that, you've got to
destroy that.
They're trying to destroy what I feel God put in place and our ancestors put in place. And so right now, we're all struggling. We're trying to get by. And if we took the time to listen to what the Lord said, read our Bibles, get everything in place the way that the Lord wants it, be in prayer, pray every day, pray every moment you can.
It's hard to love somebody when they're not making themselves lovable, when they continue to make the mistakes. They don't want to live by the truth. Our job is to come try to save your life.
Mm-hmm.
And people just don't want to hear that no more. They don't realize what they're costing themselves. I don't go, just like you were saying, I don't go around to judge you. It ain't my job.
Right.
That ain't my job. My job is to tell you what the truth is and let you either choose to make your mistake. You're going to make your mistake. Yeah. I can't stop you. I don't want to get into that. I just want to tell you what the truth is.
Mm-hmm.
And if you live your life according to untruth, that's not on me. I've given you the truth.
Yeah, heck, if you don't have a Bible yourself, I've got like 25 at home. I mean, you need a Bible.
I've got like 3 or 4. I could give mine away. I got Vine's Expository. I don't even read that anymore. Great.
It's like, take the time to look. You can't be judging Christians as bad if you don't know but 1 or 2 that you've run into in town or something like that. Not all Christians are actually Christians. No. They're there for show.
Most of live a life of show, and the problem is when you actually dig into their life, you can see the truth that isn't there.
Mm-hmm. And so it's sad. The ones that are true believers and really want to help one another need to come together, need to be in fellowship with one another, need to have gatherings with one another, bring other people so they can understand the truth. Because if we don't get to that point right now, our country's lost. We're all lost.
We're already lost. That's the problem.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of them lost, and all we see is hate and discontent. But if the Christians would stand up and do what they used to do in the past,
oh man, it would be...
there'd be a total turnaround in our country on part of this hate and discontent. And
well, and we speak of revival so much. Well, the first thing I'd say is revive your heart, because you're so many of us are lost. We're trying to get God to revive the world when really we need to revive our heart for God and for standing up for Him.
Mm-hmm.
So many of us are just laid down. Well, what about the world, and what about what so and so would say? Who cares? You stand up for the truth, because you need to know. You need to consider you're putting, that person's thought and their system overrides God. And then it's like, well, I don't want to offend them, so you'd rather offend God.
Yep. I'm sorry. Wait, every now and then you're going to offend somebody. But if you offend them with the truth, and you offend them with the love in your heart and your love for God,
God will still.
Then He'll settle it.
Yeah.
There won't be all that hate and discontent. But we tend to just kind of push Him on the back burner, it seems like.
And if anybody does struggle with love or wants to know anything about it, I highly recommend a book by Ted Decker, Dekker, Ted Decker. He has a book called The Way of Love. It is the best book other than the Bible I've ever read in my entire life. It talks only about the way love is broken down. It is the most biblically and loving book I've ever seen. Like, it breaks down, like the love of God between us, the relationships in our lives. It hits everything, spiritual, and it talks about every type of love there is. And I've never read, other than the Bible, I've never read so much truth in anything. That book only cost you like $16, and that book was a life-changing book for me.
We run across a lot of books like that on occasion, and my husband, before he died, he was always concerned, because he says, you need another bookcase. And he said, if you put another bookcase there, we're going to fall through the floor.
I don't have enough books yet.
Yeah, well, I've got bookcases lining my living room, and they're in the hallway, and I got one in the kitchen.
Man.
And so
you're speaking my language now. I see books, I'm like, woo.
All full of Bible studies and Christian movies and everything. I've got a collection of Bible studies that's out of this world. I could set up Bible studies for 2 years just with what's in my closet.
Right.
But we're getting close to turning ourselves off here today. We got like a little over a minute and a half here, it looks like. So I did want to take a moment, and like I say, you need to get closer to God. You need to find other people who can help direct you. I don't care if you go into a brick and mortar church.
I do, because biblically you need to, but
for fellowship and everything. But there's a lot of home churches these days.
Home church,
a lot of people are doing the home church situation and so forth. So find people with the same thought process as you, where the Lord is concerned. Follow the Bible and understand where we're at right now in this country and in our world, because you can't close your eyes to what's going on. We don't have much time left in our world, and I don't have much time left on the show either.
I'd also take it one step further. Find people above you who you can learn from, not at the same level, because you'll never learn.
Right.
Above you. So people that don't even need to, are far much more wisdom, so you can draw on their wisdom.
Get everything all together, and just, if nothing else, go read Deuteronomy 28, the blessings and the curses, because you will see what's going on in our world right now. So, in the meantime, if you get a chance, if you could go to axmediagroup.com and just click on that little donate button. We need some funds this year so we can expand our programming, and we have some great shows getting lined up right now. And so we want to make sure that you don't miss any of them. And we want to thank you again for coming and joining us this morning. And we hope you